This is an interview with Sidney M. Eddy of 2 Clover Lane, Albion, New York. By way of introduction, Mr. Eddy, would you tell me a bit of history about your family, your early life, school days, education, and interests? Suppose we begin with your birth. When and where you were born, your parents' names, and when and where they were born, your wife's name, and your children.
Okay. Yeah. My mother was born, what the date? June 30, 1869, at Root, Montgomery County in New York. My father was born January 26, 1866, in Milan, Ohio. I'd like to pay tribute to them for what they did in their few years. My father only lived to be 55, and he taught a great deal in that period. He brought 4 children, Hazel, Butter, Sidney, and Elsie. He loved music, so he had each child learn to play an instrument. He regretted not having a higher education, but made sure each child graduated from college. He was a great churchman and was superintendent of Sunday school for years. He helped found Arnold Derby Hospital, Albion, and served as secretary. Also, he was secretary of the Albion Chamber of Commerce. His father was a harness maker in Milan, Ohio, and moved to West Kendall, New York, where he engaged in the harness business. Arthur was not too well, being troubled with Bright's disease. However, he was ambitious. He picked up a small printing press and became interested in printing. At age 15, he was proprietor of a small newspaper. He sold ads and newspapers for a few cents. He gradually embarked on some personal card sales at 10 cents a dozen. He walked up to the Ridge Road to sell these as far as Gaines, New York. Encouraged with this business, he moved his printing plant to Albion, New York, and located on the 3rd floor back room of the granite block where Family Hardware is located. This business grew so he had 12 employees. He had started a weekly newspaper, the Weekly News, and became successful enough so there was need for larger quarters. In 1898, in conjunction with Mr. Radley, a steam laundry operator, they built 2 blocks side by side on East Bank and Fat Streets in Albion. The steam generated for the laundry was piped into the Eddy block to run a steam printing press and provide heat. As he took on more job printing, the newspaper became a burden, so he discontinued that project to concentrate on the job work. Electric power had helped stimulate business. He became noted for his fine 4-color process printing. This specialty was used greatly in bird books for Charles K. Reed of Worcester, Massachusetts, and Frank M. Chapman of American Museum of Natural History in New York City. In 1914, a 3rd floor was added to the building and an elevator installed to accommodate a paper stock room at the top floor. The business grew rapidly and took all his energy, so he became weary of the burden. World War I increased the difficulty of the operation, so he wanted out. After that war, we got to take in Sidney M. Eddy as a partner to help carry the business on. This started as a partnership January 1, 1920. However, he was not to enjoy relief for long. On September 20, 1921, he died at 55. The business was carried on under Sidney and increased so that more room was needed. An addition was built at the rear of the Eddy block. However, before this was completed, World War II came along, and this project was not completed until after that war. After World War II, Arthur B. Eddy, my son, entered the business and the project continued to grow. On June 23, 1961, a disastrous fire gutted the plant and reduced business by 1/2. Finally, a new plant was built on Route 98 south of Albion, and the business moved there. Under Arthur B. Eddy, the business continued to grow. As the business grew bigger and load increased, Arthur B. Eddy decided to get help. He sold the business in 1977 to Robert R. Remley of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but he has continued as vice president. Sidney Eddy, I attended school in Albany and was graduated high school in 1914. I went to Hamilton College. My college education was interrupted when World War I came along. The United States declared war on Germany in April 1917. This was my junior year at college. We all enlisted at college, but one half of us were thrown out, having failed the physical. We tried other services, but no luck. Finally, Washington called for volunteers for U.S. takeover for the old American field service, ambulance service, serving with the French Army. This new deal was called the U.S. Army Ambulance Corps, and training was brief at Allentown, Pennsylvania. We went there in June, and in August we sailed for France. By November, we were serving at the front with the 2nd Dismounted French Cavalry. This was a division of young troops who saw lots of action, so did we. Some fellows of our ambulance were killed, and some were wounded. I was one of the latter. After peace came, November 11, 1918, we went on to Germany for occupation for 2 months. Then we were sent home in April 1919. The college allowed us to spend 1 term and gave us a degree in 1920. I entered a partnership with my father that January 1920. And that was in my father's eulogy I gave before. I have one son, Arthur B. Eddy, my first wife. My second wife had 3 children, which made us a nice family. I started community work in 1920. This year makes it 60 years that I've worked on fun campaigns. My pet hobby is the Arnold Gregory Memorial Hospital. I worked for this hospital over 50 years. We conducted 3 fun campaigns in that time for new buildings and so forth. I was an elder in the First Presbyterian Church of Albion over 30 years. One of our favorite community service clubs is the Rotary Club of Albion. We are charter members and have worked together in Albion community activity since 1922. Retirement does not come easy when one has been so active. We still try to help where we can and still enjoy that. I have 2 reminiscences there. As young boys, we were interested in automobiles.
Oh.
It's interesting, in that time, most every city built an auto. Now, Syracuse built a Franklin, air-conditioned, air-cooled car, not air.
Oh.
In Rochester, the Cunningham was built, a very lovely automobile. And of course, in Buffalo, the Pierce Arrow was a very fine car, you probably remember. They also had steamers. For instance, the White Steamer. There was one in Elvin that we used to enjoy.
Yes.
You had to steam up before you can start up.
Oh.
There was a Carter car.
What kind?
A Carter car.
Yes.
Not the present.
Uh-huh.
This had a large flywheel, and the other wheel at right angles, so you could control the speed by moving it in or out from center.
Uh-huh.
Unusual.
Yes.
And then the International Harvester car, I recall Dr. Whittier had one of those. It's built like a buggy. It was a buggy with a steering post and nothing in front.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Whittier.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he drove that around.
Uh-huh.
The Cadillacs came into Albion. The doctors were getting 50 cents for a house call and $1 for a house call and 50 cents for office calls. So he took on the agency selling Cadillacs.
Oh.
Out of Rochester.
Uh-huh.
Well, there are other things. As kids, we used to enjoy the building of the Buffalo, Lockport, and Rochester trolley line through here. Of course, every city was doing that then.
Oh, yes.
So we missed a lot of school that time, but it was interesting to watch.
How old were you when they were putting that through about?
I don't remember. Well, just probably 10 years old.
10 years, yeah.
And then the Barge Canal, when they enlarged that took a lot of we had to
You don't remember when that was
We-
put through.
well, yes, we were pretty small.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting also that they got a lot of masons in from Europe on that project, and when they got through, there was nothing to do, and that's how cobblestone started.
Oh.
They,
Uh-huh.
they built cobblestone houses for something to do, and that's how this whole area got interested in that.
I see.
I don't know what else you got. Is that enough?
You don't happen to have any pictures of any of your old, Pierce arrows or anything like that were around town, do you?
No, Pierce Arrow was so recent that when we organized a Rotary Club, the governor was the president of Pierce Arrow Company, the White Arrow Company of Buffalo.
Oh.
And my wife drove Pierce Arrow, so first.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Did I tell about my son?
You
Oh, yes, yeah, I read
yes,
that, yeah, I
you
read
did. Yes.
Well, that's about it.
What is this here?
Well, that was the fire.
You didn't tell me, Mr. Eddy, about. I would like to know a little bit about when the printing company was destroyed by fire.
Well, strangely enough, the fire started right across from the Albion Fire Department.
Yes.
And they fell on duty, happened to come out. Here was this fire. It had gone up the elevator shaft, and the fire was 3 floors high, shooting up the top when he discovered it.
Mm-hmm.
So it had a pretty good start.
Mm-hmm.
And well, they were fighting it 12 hours. I got pictures of it. Not here. Yeah, that was pretty bad. And when you're shut down like that, it's strange enough, your business friends evaporate. You start all over
Oh,
again.
I was going to ask you how you got started again.
Well,
after-
we had a trailer come in. We were running a trailer for our office out back of the block.
Oh.
And the back part of the office, the new part of the building, was not in too bad a shape. We got that in action. And then we rented a big like a barn nearby, and put machines up, the binder machines up in there. So we bumped along there. It was pretty rough.
Uh-huh.
But everybody was with us, the whole community, of course.
Oh, yes.
And this is after the fire, we built a new business, and of course we considered going elsewhere, but we decided to stay and build a new business on 98.
Yes.
And we were cited by the Chamber of Commerce up with this as the business of the month. And then they had a Chamber of Commerce tour through the plant. The whole division. Here's the composition, the press room, the bindery, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. You had to buy all new machinery after the fire?
Mainly, it was amazing how they could get them back in action. Even those Linotype machines, there are probably 2,000 parts of those with the mats and everything. We had a man come up from New York. That was his specialty. There were 3 of those. He spent 2 weeks just getting those in action.
Oh,
He
yes.
got them going. That was his business.
Did you actually run any of the machines, Mr. Eddy?
Oh, yes. Well,
Uh-huh.
here's the problem. I'd been in college, and I'd been in France for 2 years. When we were kids, we used to feed press by hand, and that's all. So I had to get ready, and he died within the year, so he was ill and died, so I had to work about 12, 16 hours a day to find out what to tell him to do.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
And that's how I learned. I had to.
And you had some good men, good employees
Yes, we
to
were
bring you through
we were fortunate, yeah.
your tragic fire.
Yeah, well, we had them work on cleaning up and like that, so they didn't lose any income. That's the Weekly News right there, the paper that he started.
Oh, yes.
That's
The Weekly News.
Yeah, Weekly News.
Yes. Okay.
He got so he called it the Weekly Nuisance because he got interested in job work.
You were telling me something about the front page of the weekly news. It used to be fill-in.
The boilerplate, they call it boilerplate. It's filler stuff now.
Filler.
That's all filler.
Uh-huh. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, there was a service, and you could buy any of that business. It was a service. The main local stuff is on the inside, and the outside was just boilerplate, but you could run that off ahead, and so you get it out faster.
Okay. And is there any other hobbies that you had, Mr. Eddy, that might be interesting
Well,
to recall?
I guess my hobby was community work, see, my father's was.
And you belong to what organizations besides the Rotary and Presbyterian Church?
Well, the hospital and church. And
Hospital.
all over, yeah.
The hospital was quite a hobby of yours.
Yeah, my father was on the first secretary when they founded the hospital. He said, 1915.
Oh, yes.
And then since then we booked 3 times, and we're still active in the thing.
Yes.
Of course, there's a lot of golf and fishing like that, but when you're tied up like I was, you didn't have any time.
Didn't have any time.
Attend to business.
Well, how about when you retired, Mr. Eddy? Didn't you find time then?
Well, no, when they moved up there, I continued. I was president, and I was chairman of the board when Dick became president. And I had an office there, and I used to do a lot of my community work from there.
From where?
From my office there, at the new plant.
Oh, at the new plant.
Yeah,
I see. Uh-huh.
And then, of course, when he sold out, I got out.
Oh, yes. But of course you had to have some play along with your work. You mentioned golfing.
No, I didn't. Well,
You didn't golf?
We used to have the Eagle Harbor golf course.
Oh, yes.
I put some
I
time on
recall
No?
that to a certain extent.
A while ago. And that's the only golf I ever did.
I see.
Well, I like to travel. My father liked to travel. It was amazing. He'd work like the Dickens, and all of a sudden, boom, he'd go to Jerusalem or someplace. Of course, and he went to the World's Sunday School reunion, representing the Sunday School here.
Where was that held?
In Belgium, I think. And he was in Germany.
Oh, what year was that? Around when Mr. Van Norman went? No, that wouldn't be that. No.
I don't know, but he was in Germany in 1913 when the Kaiser was getting ready to go to war. He said they were.
Your father?
Yeah. He said they were marching up and down then, and getting all set to go.
Oh.
Of course, he knew he was a great admirer of Woodrow Wilson. He was died in the war Republican, but Woodrow Wilson tried for that League of Nations.
Yes.
And he's a great admirer for anybody that would do a job like he did there, but the Congress, he sold Europe, and he came back and Congress turned him down and killed him. He didn't last long. So my father was a great admirer of him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, we got the United Nations.
Yes.
Same idea. Let's see. I think those 2 years with the French Army, I wouldn't trade my college 4 years for those. Those 2 years are more important.
What happened? Could you tell me anything about the French connection?
Well, we were only 50 guys in a division of 15,000 Frenchmen, 50 Americans. And we had to learn French pretty fast. And they were very nice to us.
Yes.
We carried, priests would go up front and go along with us, and then officers too. But we had, our French division was very active. The young fellows, dismounted cavalry. They were very active, so we got credit for eight major battles.
Oh.
And our division the French were cited, the division was cited 5 times across the year. But that was the only for combatant forces, the engineers and the amateur medical weren't in on that. Although we got our own citation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a very interesting experience. It's the thing is, we didn't know how we enlisted for the duration, whatever that might be.
Yes.
They wanted us. Just then, the Bolsheviks were starting in Russia. And they tried to get a lot of us to volunteer to go over there after we occupied Germany. And I thought,
Oh.
some of them did. They went to Russia.
Oh, they did.
See, the white Russians were trying to make a democracy, but the Bolsheviks got in there and promised everything. That sold the whole thing out. No, we didn't want to go over there. Well, one of my chums, his brother went over there.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong here?
Oh, that's very interesting. Do you recall any specific incident that might be interesting
Where?
during your World War experience?
Well, no, it was all. No, it was all very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, those fellows were all kinds of. Under those conditions, you're pretty close, at least to your friends.
Oh, yes.
And there were all kinds of fellows. We had one of them was captain of the football team of the state of Washington, and the other was instructor of English in California University. And on the other hand, we had Marty Muldoon, the deputy sheriff from Brooklyn. He was a wild son of a gun. Then we had another guy who was a taxi cab driver in Philadelphia. So we had all kinds of people, but
Yes.
we got very close to all of them.
All thrown in together
Oh,
and
yeah. Just like any
Uh-huh.
enlistment, any service.
yeah.
Of course, we never knew when the thing was going to be over. We had this peace scare about a week or two before the regular one, over 11. Our General Henoch,
What's his name?
Henoque, French. He's French general. He lost his son in the war, and of course, when the Germans came on, they took his wife and daughter, and we started celebrating. He wouldn't have any part of that. He said, just cut that stuff out.
Mm.
This means too much to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we lost some of our buddies. That's the way the thing goes.
Yes.
I'm down to about one now. A fellow down in Utica way. He's getting pretty old.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting so. Well, I lost 3 of our Legion fellows right here within the summer. We started
yes.
the American Legion post here.
Yes.
The Legion was founded in Paris in 1919 after the war. And I've been to post number 1. I've been to post number 1 in Paris.
Oh.
Of course, I've always been in the Legion here.
Mm-hmm.
Our American Legion post is a Sherritt post. Now, Sherritt posts were named after 2 Sherritt boys, both my playmates. Both were killed in the Hindenburg.
Oh. Uh-huh.
So they named the post after them.
Do you happen to know anything about the Medina American Legion post? Was it James Clark post?
No, I don't. Of course, they had one in Medina, I had one in Holly.
In Holly, too. Uh-huh.
I didn't, in those first days that were organizing the Legion, I couldn't do too much then. I was working day and night trying
yes.
to buy the printing business.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Anyhow, I give great credit to my father and mother, what they did. That's the foundation of the whole Eddy tribe.
Oh, yes.
My grandfather, when in Milan, Ohio, there were some neighbors there. This fellow was down in the basement working. Down in the basement working all the time. They thought he was a nut. Never get to see him much. He was Thomas R. Edison.
How about that?
So we got to do all right too.
Uh-huh.
He says, well, that's enough, isn't it?
Well,
Well, this was an album. We got quite close to these French officers, and this fellow was artistic. And when I got that book with pictures, he did the artwork on this cover. And those are the 3 battles we'd been to by that time. That's pretty good.
the champagne.
The Champagne and the Somme was the top one. The Ain was Soissons.
I see.
Our ambulances, we were each responsible for an ambulance. We had to keep it in shape.
Mm-hmm.
And there were Fords, which was all right because they were light enough, so if we get in the shell hole, I'll show you a shell hole here. Like a bushel basket, only a hole in the ground, and you get in there, you can't get out. You wait till 2 or 3 soldiers come along, they lift you right up.
Oh.
This fellow was killed, he was a buddy of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He was killed when I was wounded.
What type of automobile did they use for their ambulance?
A Ford.
A Ford.
Oh yes, Ford.
Uh-huh.
Ford Model T.
Oh.
See, you get shrapnel and knock holes through like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a, this is my buddy from college.
Where are you?
Well, I'm right here.
With the hat?
Yeah,
With the tan on?
that was a tan I got selling Saturday Evening Post when I was a kid.
Mm.
These are all our pals. We used to enjoy watching the French, these air battles. And
Yes.
this has brought down a young Frenchman, only 18 years old, brought that down. And of course we'd have to take him back,
Mm-hmm.
take him to the hospital. Well, here's the young fellow out there. He's the one that did that. And there's Lulu. Now Lulu was a German dog that came over our side. We adopted him.
Oh.
Adopted her.
She wasn't that ugly then.
No, the dog, yeah. Now this is a German balloon sent over with propaganda for Americans to come over on their side. And they would treat us nice,
Mm-hmm.
no trouble. This was back in the on Ripoll when they had barracks.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the thing still, there's this one.
Oh, yes.
These 2 boys were, well, that stove you saw back there, Sibley stove. We live in here underground,
Yes.
and there's that Sibley stove, and this fellow tried to start his car, it was too cold, and he got gasoline all up his sleeve, so he went on and dry himself, and he exploded.
Mm.
And this fellow tackled him and tried to put the fire out. Pretty, gasoline fire, pretty rough.
Yes.
Now there's the size of a shell hole. See, a shell knocked a hole in there. You get in there. Somebody's been in there. See, you wait till 2 or 3 Frenchmen come along. They'll let you out.
Mm-hmm.
We took pictures, and then we pooled them. Then we get a lot of prints and trade and everything. Now here we are. The front is here, and we're here, and that's our dugout.
Yes.
If they start shelling, we just get in there.
Mm-hmm.
We just wait for them. We didn't handle stretchers. They brought them back to us.
I see.
There's some of our, this is only trouble with pictures. You can only take them when something is going on. When there's a battle going on, you don't get a chance.
No.
We smashed 3 cars one night. I lost my car there.
Mm-hmm.
They put on a gas barrage, and we had to get them back fast as we could, and we got for so fast that 3 of them had head-on collisions. Well, it's pretty wet. This is on report back. We adopted this Belgian boy for a while. I don't know where he came from,
yes.
but he was our buddy, and we fed him and stayed with us. Then he disappeared. Nobody knows what happened. There's our French sergeant.
Yes.
We had French officers and American officers.
Gas masks?
Yeah, this is Charlie. But he's the one that's still living. Yeah, we wore a gas mask right on the side of the car. This fellow was killed. That's going into a new action. That's the way traffic wasn't very good. That's the way traffic. Now we had to drive between. See, those 2 trucks are stuck. We had to drive between here, and this is all water. Spring rain. See, it's still wet.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's our dugout. Now, I'm standing in that shell hole. You see, that's a pretty deep one. That's probably a 210. And this is where if they start shelling, we just dive in there and wait.
Oh, yes.
But we had to stay on the road. If we had wounded, we couldn't stop for anything. There's a observation balloon being shot down. Here's the taxi cab driver. He was a tough.
He was what?
Sammy Bernstein, the taxi cab driver.
Oh.
He was a tough egg. But there isn't anything he wouldn't do for us or we for him. He's as close as that. That's the way the Frenchmen took in their guns early.
Oh,
yes. Refugees.
They had oxen.
Yeah. That's a wagon load of Pinard. Pinard was very cheap red wine. The French had to have wine, and when the war started, they didn't know what they were going to do, so the Dr. Pinard made a wine out of all the dregs of everything.
Oh.
So every morning you get what they call a beat down. They wore here a beat down of Pinard. They didn't have much water over there.
Carry your wine in, huh?
Yeah. There's an outlook post here.
High in the tree.
Yeah. And this was a community inside, way down. They had a regular streets under there. And we were watching it. Someone said, there goes the German Richthofen's flying circus. And sure enough it was. So we all came out and watched all of them. They saw us. So we got back in. Mind their own business. I think that's very expressive.
So why don't you read this little caption, Mr. Eddy? It's on.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Well, we're gathered at this old church after 40 hours of steady work at the front without food or sleep. I had some French bread in my hand, but too darn tired to eat it. The rest was short life. We were soon ordered back to the lines for another 24 hours of work. Shorty Hannah was later killed when the accident was found out. I was with him when it happened. Poor guy. Well, here's this stuff too. What do you think of those things?
Oh, could you describe them for me?
Well, this is the French Croix de Guerre, and the Silver Stars is divisional. That's by division. And that's Verdun city was a fair-sized city, but altogether they kept taking the Germans would take it and then the French would take it. There's the advantage there.
Verdun. V-E-R-D-U-N.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was very important in that war.
Right.
But they lost 250,000 men coming, going in that one town, that's all. Yet, after the thing was over, they made these medals and sent them all to anybody that took part in this thing. Isn't that wonderful? This Purple Heart.
Could you describe what these different medals look like?
Well, here's the French here that has the green stripes and the red stripes. With a star down below.
Dated?
1914, 1918. That was the duration of their...
Oh, yes. That's the first one.
Now, the Purple Heart was started by George Washington. A simple
Yes.
A simple purple ribbon is all it had. So it's presented for when you're wounded.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I got that one, the name's on the back of it.
Your name's on the back.
And this is sent out, this is the war record. That's sent
Your
out
war record.
on your record, and there's your 8 major battles right there.
Oh, yes. Could you name them off?
Well, there's some, and
It's the 8 battles.
Sound and the Ain. Now, there's the one I was wounded in Montdidier and Noyon.
How do you spell that?
Montdidier and Noyon. Oh, Motdidier. The Champagne Marne. Now, the Americans were in the, see, we were next to the Americans. We were in the Champagne, and they were over to the right in the Marne, and they had it all the time. Now, there's the Ain Marne. That's the Samuel over there. Mouzargan. And this is defensive sector, they call it.
I'm right in your light.
No, sorry.
Defensive sector.
Yeah. And these other ones are, New York State Service Medal.
Oh,
It's
yes.
sent to all their servicemen. And Orleans County gave one too for Pro Patria.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting
Oh,
one.
this is sent by the French government
Oh, it's
for helping out, helping the French.
red and white. Is that the French colors?
Well,
Red and white stripe?
yeah, but they're big ones.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
And that's the service of occupation there. And this is the state, New York State conspicuous service medal.
Oh.
You have to have warrant
Okay.
for all of these others. You know.
Uh-huh.
I was afraid I'd forget all these guys' names, so I stopped typing them down.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. We did yearbooks. I got interested in that when we started the first one here at Chevron in 1912, and I was on the staff. And my father printed it, and we got in it. And that day, yearbook. Oh, they were new then, and at that time, you'd have articles by students too, and now it's mainly a picture book in this day, and it costs about 50 times more.
Yes.
But we got interested, and we had as many as 16 of them. Well, one professor that taught here went to Fairport, and they want to start a book. He said, I know just who can do it. So I went over, and we started one there. And we had 2 down in Pennsylvania, down below the area. Went down in there. All word of mouth. So I got as many as 16 of those. The only trouble, they all came at the same time. The rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So it filled in with other business. But that was interesting. I enjoyed working with kids. I've had another hobby I didn't tell you about. I got grandchildren all over the world. This exchange student program, we worked on that a great deal. I've been on the committee ever since it started. And we got one down in Brazil. I stayed with my son's family for a year, and we grew to love one another, so we went down to see her. We went down to visit her in Sao Paulo. And today I got a letter from Sweden, from this Miley Willen, a lovely young lady.
What's the name?
M-A-J-LIS. The last name is W-I-L-E-N. I asked her what that really means. It's like Mary Jewel or something like that in our language.
Okay.
Well, I've continued corresponding with them. We had one in Tokyo. Son and his wife and I went to Tokyo and tried to find her. Nikki Kaga. N-I-K-K-I-K-A-G-A.
N-I what?
Nikki. N-I-K-K-I. last name is K-A-G. She stayed at Cass family, Bonnie Cass.
Oh.
And we tried to find her, come to find out, I got like Smith in this country. We never found her. She was right there in Tokyo, but we didn't know her father's name. That's the trouble. But she was, but they're all nice people. I take them to the ice follies, and the boys. I take the boys to the circus in Rochester and buy them a dinner, and then they'd come to me for advice. One fellow, his father owned a tin mine in Bolivia, and he of course, naturally would want to follow that line. And he came up to me the night before we left, and we spent about an hour together. He said, where could I go for mining education? I said, well, I've been out in Denver and got the best Colorado School of Mining is the best one you can get. So he went back to Bolivia, and by a year or so later, he got a telephone call from Denver. He said, this is it. So they come through. This girl I wrote today, I heard from today, he had a problem. They're my grandchildren. I'm a grandfather. So
right.
Why not?
That's right.
And one fellow, Kari Nornamaki in Helsinki, Finland, he stayed here with the Kropsy family. And they speak English very well. So my wife and I were on a cruise, Scandinavian cruise, and we pulled in there. And I got an interpreter to try to call. He worked in the bank. And he finally got through. Of course, the bank had all kinds of branches. They got him, and online he said, well, Mr. Eddy, mine is international monetary matters, and this is the season when they're all here. He said, I don't think they'll let me go. He said, wait a minute. And he asked him, the president said, you go and stay just as long as you want. Stay on that ship. And he did. He had dinner with us, and then the second in command took him all over the ship. They had a year of compulsory military training. His was Navy. Right out in he showed us where it was out in the day. So he was interested in all the captain's cabin top side there, all the instruments and so forth. So he enjoyed it. And we had another little girl down in Indonesia. Just a little, but she could speak English very well. Well, they're all in. We got one in New Zealand and one in Australia.
Wonderful.
Then we sent them over there. So when everybody goes here, I wrote them letters. You know, I want to hear from home. Look, when I was in France, the more letters you got from home, the better. So I know how they
That's right.
So that's been a hobby. I got a whole bunch of them. You know. I've had 2 books, and I've got to start a third book. It fills right up. Of course, I got quite a lot of grandchildren of my own. That's the one that worked. Oh, this granddaughter was just married. She went to Africa on their way.
Oh, yes.
She and her husband called up from London Sunday. They're on their way back to Houston to set up their home. There she is.
You want me to turn that off?
I don't know if you're doing anything now. Only trouble with diary. We try to be doing with nothing going on. Quite a time. Well, this other fellow and I from college, in France, everything, the railroads all centered in Paris, north, south, east, or west. Echoes of Paris, you go anywhere. So the front's up the north, and we go to Paris, and then we go. In the winter, we see there's not too much action. Just what they call a coup de main, to go over to find out who's on the other side. So we get vacation 2 weeks. We go to Nice twice. And this Warfield, and we weren't officers or anything. We got to get on that train. He says, you can't do it. That's an officer's train. So I took the baggage, and he got the porter, guard there in conversation. I sneaked around behind him. We got on this officer's train, and I saw the department went and sat down. Pretty soon, a British general came along. Said, "What are you doing here?" So we got out of there, and then we couldn't find it. But some of the officers were very kind to us. They said, "Well, here, come on, you sleep on the floor. It's all right." About 7 o'clock in the morning, the conductor came along and found us, and kicked us off the train way down the south of France somewhere. I don't know. We never heard of the place. It's fun at that age. Boy,
Adventure.
That's the time to do it. When you're young enough to get around and do things you never would. Even when I got my orders to go home in Germany, Lord, we wanted to get home. And this other fellow, Bill Edwards from Santa Barbara, he was an architect.
What's his name?
Bill Edwards.
Bill Edwards.
We went in the station. We thought we had plenty of time to kill. The train was gone. Here, our luggage and everything on the troop train. So we went to Strasbourg, that quaint city, lovely city.
Strasbourg, France.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strasbourg is French or German, depending on whose side, who won the war. And we stayed overnight there, and we bummed away, and finally we got back to Paris, and of course we got balled out. But it's stuff like that that was fun. Like getting on that general's train, going south. At that age, you could do anything in uniform to make a difference. Everybody was with you.
That's right. Yes.
Well, it's strange now, in going from the front to Germany. I'm trying to think of that city. Anyhow, we stopped in Luxembourg, and the boss had 2 daughters, so we couldn't talk to each other. So I brought my mail and showed them the stamps, and they were interested in my stamps, and I was interested in their stamps. And pretty soon the French officers came, and I was kind of came through, and they wanted food. And I was sorry. So they went on, and he called me over and said, looked up the chimney, there were a lot of hams hanging around up there. He trusted me, and I couldn't betray that. Of course, you got to run the inn. You got to have food for the inn. In the military, you got a right to take anything you want. That leaves you nothing. But he trusted me. He said, I felt like a skunk.
You took them?
No, he's.
Oh.
After he just told him, didn't have anything, he said, look up there.
Oh, you had plenty. Up in the,
well,
where were they? Up in the...
Hams, they hang up all these great big things.
Yes. Way up
they
in
smoke.
the ceiling?
They smoke them, yeah.
Uh-huh.
On the fireplace.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, great big fireplace.
Uh-huh.
But they were very good to us everywhere. Even in Germany, of course, they were the enemy. We didn't hopping on with them much. But we took advantage. We were at Mainz. There were 3 cities. Mainz, that was the French center, and then the American center, and then the British center, Cologne. Koblenz was American, Cologne was British. I heard that a minister, a Baptist minister here was in the American Army occupation. So I asked permission to go up to Koblenz, and sure enough, there he was. So
there he was.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
What was his name?
Ford, Reverend Ford. So we had him out quite a bit that time. Then we went over to Wiesbaden. That's beautiful bathhouses over there for all kinds of steam baths.
Yes.
Not great on that stuff. And then we went to opera at Wiesbaden too. Here we were seeing the French Italian opera. Oh, Madame Butterfly.
Oh.
Well, that Madame Butterfly was in Paris. We saw Madame Butterfly, and by an Italian gang in French opera house. We were watching that, and then all of a sudden they had an alert. So they had to get out in the center in case they were bombed. They had to get around outside.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't enjoy that was when you're on leave.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Sir, now you got enough stuff to last you 10 years there. This foreign legion is made up of volunteers of all kinds of nations, even some Americans, I guess. And we were at a farm, big farm, Farm Lapine, they call it. It's the farm of the pines. And they had a unit of the foreign legion there too, so we all sat in the barn, and I had a watch and a camera and two things. And the morning they were gone, so was all my watch and camera. They're a bunch of bandits, you know.
Oh.
They're all.
Uh-huh. The type of.
They're adventurers and all that.
Yes.
Well, you get it on television once in a while.
Yes.
They have a story on French Foreign Legion.
Right.